praise your name unapologetically. And leave that kind of legacy.
And welcome to Just Ask Joyce. I'm Joyce Oglesby, your Family Life Fix-It Pro, getting you fit for life every day, just like today, God's way. And, you know, it is a glorious day for the Lord today. I pray that you have blessed Him in some way by spreading some love around. Now, you know, we're going to talk about election selection 2016. Yep. How does that compare with love? Oh, my God. It has been a loveless affair.
It's going to only be worse.
Garrett Siva-King, our political strategist, is on board. We are opening the phone lines for your calls, your comments, your outbursts, your outrage, whatever you want to do. Today, this is your platform, darling, to do it. 571-2428, 571-CHAT. We've just had a great hour of discussion. We're going to try and pick up and maybe cover a little bit of the territory because I know that some of you driving home are just now joining us, and we want to catch you up to speed a little bit. Yeah. Now, last night was interesting, Garrett. It was interesting.
Yeah. She outperformed every poll, of course.
She meaning Hillary.
Yeah, I think that Secretary Clinton really gained a lot by the AP story that brought out that she had, you know, mysteriously gotten some more super delegates.
Well, the Associated Press really timed that just perfectly, didn't they?
Well, and I think a lot of it goes on the super delegates themselves, because we've shared this on the show before.
Yes,
I'll share it again. They are not supposed to pledge prior to the convention. Right. They did this. They started doing this in 2008, more predominantly, but in 2016, it just went rampant, and they really should not have been counted at this point in time. Until they get to the convention, they're not supposed to be counted.
Well, she's a little unconventional anyway.
Well, and
her campaign and
some of that's on Hillary and some of it's not. Some of it's on Debbie Wasserman Schultz, which will be very interesting to see her primary, because Bernie Sanders has endorsed her primary opponent. Very interesting to see her primary for Congress in Florida. It's one thing that we will for sure cover here on Just Ask Joyce on election selection. But, you know, Hillary Clinton did make history, becoming the presumptive nominee last night to be the first female nominee for the two major parties.
What did you see glaring about that?
Well, I thought it was she did mention the suffragettes, which was very important. I think she should have mentioned the suffragettes from New York. She mentioned her mother, who, by the way, Dorothy Rodham, if you ever have a chance to read Dorothy Rodham's story, it's not political. It's not a political story at all. It's an American story about someone who fulfilled the American dream when she shouldn't have. She was an orphan, was abandoned by her family.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is a beautiful story, and it should something. She shared a little bit of that in her speech. The thing that got me was she did not share about the Republican and Democrat women who came before her.
With the forerunners?
Well, I mean, the people who had shaped women's ability to to run for office.
That really broke the ceiling.
They put when she said in 2008, she said she put 18 million more cracks in that glass ceiling, which she did. That was the amount of votes that she got in 2008. But she still has come nowhere near the amount of cracks that other people put into that ceiling for her. And I think she may very well cover that in the days to come. I hope she does. I hope she goes back, and I hope she realizes that her ability to become the nominee was through a lot of hard work of women in this country, even women leaders from outside this country, like Margaret Thatcher, who her ability to work with George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II to end communism and its rule over the Soviet Union. That is where she should get her inspiration. She should be talking about Shirley Chisholm, a congresswoman from New York who ran for the Democratic nomination in 1972. She should be talking about Margaret Chase Smith, the senator from Maine who ran for as a Republican, the first, really truly the first woman to run for a major party ticket. She should be talking about former Senator Elizabeth Dole, who ran for president in 2000. A lot of people forget that. That was a monumentous run in 2000. She should be talking about Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan never ran for president, but she was the first black woman to address a major party's primetime speech at the convention. In fact, that speech should be credited to giving Jimmy Carter the election that year, because it was her speech that emboldened Democrats to come out and support them over Gerald Ford, who had struggled with different things. She, as First Lady, also forgot, and this is not part of her history, she forgot to look at the example that was before her. Before she was First Lady, you had some very strong First Lady. Lady Bird Johnson was while Jackie Kennedy did a lot for the style and class of the First Lady in the modern era, Lady Bird Johnson is the one who was the activist. She came out and she talked about issues that faced families in Appalachia. She came out and talked about illiteracy. She was one of the first ladies to come out and talk about illiteracy. And Lady Bird Johnson, throughout her entire life, was a public servant while she was the wife of the governor and other things. But she defined the role of talking about policy as the First Lady of a state and of the country. You had Nancy Reagan, who came out and talking about saying no to drugs.
Right.
Nancy Reagan, who changed a lot of young people's life, including my own, by opening up the ranch that she and Ronald Reagan had for us to come and to learn about America. It was not political. It was to learning about America and learning about being a public servant. To one of them, who, by the way, is her birthday today. For former First Lady Barbara Bush's birthday is today, and I send my warm happy birthday wishes to her. She's one of my closest friends, really, truly, and a mentor of mine. To talk about illiteracy again, and we still talk about it. We don't talk about this enough, because there is an issue of illiteracy in this country
still, and
we should not be in America today. We should not have an issue of illiteracy, and that's something that she has always talked about. She's talked about our troops. But unfortunately, Barbara Bush has always been the brunt of Hillary Clinton's attacks many times. Yes. Hopefully that will end now that they have a little closer friendship between their husbands. Hillary Clinton failed to mention these women last night. And I know it was a speech. It was only 30 minutes. I mean, I know that you can't.
I want to say Laura was a big advocate for marriage.
Laura,
she was a big advocate for marriage.
Well, Laura was an advocate for women in Afghanistan and Iraq, for women of Africa, for the fight against AIDS and malaria. Laura Bush is one of my favorite.
She's one of my favorite too.
But Hillary Clinton is going to have to understand that while many women do not like Donald Trump, many women don't like her either.
Right.
These two candidates are going to have to appeal to the majority, by the way, of voters, and that is made up by women. So they're not. I get so frustrated with, especially when you're talking about this week, where we say, and I've said this on the show before, Hispanics don't vote in a block. Hispanics vote. Evangelicals don't vote in a block. African Americans don't vote in a block. Women don't vote in a block. Men don't vote in a block. You have to go out and appeal to the American people, to the issues that face them on their kitchen table.
As individuals, not as an entity.
Yes, and instead of labeling that point, and that's that. While it is historic from last night, she is going to be the American. If she is elected, she would be the American president. If Donald Trump is elected, he would be the American president. They will represent men, women, Christians, Hispanics,
blacks,
Jews,
that's right, everyone,
Muslims, whoever.
Everyone.
And they're going to have to do so properly. And they're going to have to reach out to the American people and understand the issues that are facing them. Right now, they don't.
Well, it still disturbs me. I've said it many times. I cannot get it out of my craw as much as I have tried. I keep waiting for some charge to be brought down against Hillary Clinton, and it's not going to be. I've said that all along. It's not going to be. It's going to be swept under the rug, as many things that have evolved around the Clinton legacy have been swept under the rug. And, but this email situation really, really bugs me more than maybe it does anybody else. I don't know. But because she was the first lady. Mm-hmm. I know that she